Welcome back to the King's Corner, the place for all things Bethesda. I am the KingFanMan. And hey, if you love Bethesda and you're not a subscriber yet to the KingFanMan channel, why not? That's all I talk about on this channel. Go ahead, hit that subscribe button. Today, we go back in search of the scariest places in Fallout 76. And today, we go to a very, very scary place. Back to one of the first places we looked at before the game was even here, Moundsville State Penitentiary. The West Virginia Penitentiary, located in Moundsville, West Virginia, was in operation from 1866 to 1985. This means this prison story goes all the way back to the time of the Civil War. West Virginia had a great need for a prison, so much so they had no location to place their inmates. In 1863, Governor Arthur Borman lobbied the West Virginia legislature for a prison, but was repeatedly denied. The legislature directed him to send the inmates to existing county jails. It finally took 9 inmates escaping one of those small jails and the press letting all the public know for the legislature to finally take action. On February the 7th, 1866, the state legislature approved the purchase of 10 acres just outside the city limits of Moundsville, West Virginia, and ordered a temporary wooden prison be built while the real Moundsville prison was under construction. The building you see today was completed in 1876 with a Gothic architecture that was modeled after the famous Joliet prison. Now, some might find this 4-story structure beautiful, and it is on the outside. But once you go on the inside, things change drastically. Moundsville is a historic landmark. They give daily tours 7 days a week. But when it gets dark, they give a different type of tour. Ghost tours 7 nights a week. Just what could be residing at the Moundsville State Penitentiary. Numerous paranormal investigators have come, including the most famous ones like TAPS, Ghost Adventurers, and Paranormal Quest. In fact, ghost hunters and ghost adventurers found the place so active with the paranormal, they both came back multiple times to investigate, finding great evidence every time. More than 1,000 deaths are recorded within the walls of this Gothic structure, and most of these deaths were by violent or tragic means. Now, many of these deaths came from the executions, from the hangings, and from the electric chair, Old Sparky, but many came just from the conditions inside the prison. From eyewitness accounts, Moundsville Prison always had horrific conditions for the inmates. In the summertime, temps could reach up to 120 degrees, especially on the upper levels because of no air conditioning, poor ventilation, and no insulation. In the winter, on the lower levels, it might even get below freezing. Another problem was rats, which were always very numerous in and around the prison. Inmates would say that the rats would come into their cells while they slept, and if it was cold, they would even get into bed with them seeking warmth. The bugs, they also were an issue, with roaches spreading like wildfire. Can you imagine trying to stay even one night in a place like this? Witnesses say the smell was enough alone to turn your stomach. The prison also quickly became overpopulated. The U.S. Department of Justice voted Moundsville State Penitentiary the top 10 most violent correctional facility in the United States. The prison was shut down in 1995 because it was stated that it was inhumane to house prisoners in these conditions. In fact, it was because of all these conditions in 1986 a riot broke out and prisoners took hostages and tried to negotiate for better living conditions at the prison. The 119-year history of this building is so dark, and the structure sits crumbling today. Since 1866, violent life and death went on inside these walls. You can still hear the echoed screams along its corridors. Is all this suffering the reason why things today still lurk its dark hallways? Staff today who lead the tours report that you can see shadow figures all over the prison. These figures have actually been captured on camera several times. EVPs are very common as well. That is electronic voice phenomenon, which is being able to record a voice you hear on playback, but you couldn't hear it with your natural ear. But if you need sounds to be fully audible for you to believe, they hear the doors opening and closing when no one is even in the prison, or they hear them when no one is in an area. They hear screams almost on a nightly basis, and many other sounds as well. Now, most of this evidence doesn't have to be blindly believed. They have documented so much evidence from cameras which are permanently in the prison and from groups who have investigated. Moundsville began as a scary, scary place. I haven't even mentioned that the Moundsville prison is actually sitting on top of a sacred burial ground. The Grave Creek Mound Archaeological Complex is located directly across the street from the prison central tower. The Grave Creek Mound, built over 2,000 years ago by the Adena people, is one of the largest and most famous burial mounds in the United States. The prison didn't need any more reasons to be haunted, but now we find out it's actually built on a graveyard. Its entire history has been a scary, scary place. I guess it's fitting that it remains a scary place to this day. Well, I don't know about you, whether it's today with dark shadow figures and screams, or 30 years ago, I don't want to spend one night at the most scary place in West Virginia.